One thing about the channel that I would like to say is that horror comedy also qualifies for my reviews. That being said, the inaugural review for the Big Red Horror Show on YouTube is Cocaine Bear. Yes, Cocaine Bear. It's loosely based on the true story of Pablo Escobar, or Cokie the Bear, a 175-pound American black bear who fatally overdosed on cocaine in 1985. The cocaine had been dropped by drug smugglers in the wilderness in Tennessee, and the bear was found dead in northern Georgia and was stuffed and displayed in a mall in Kentucky. It inspired this film and many, many, many laughs. Now, I do feel bad for this bear. However, I do think about it constantly because there was a moment before that bear died where it was the apex predator on Earth, more powerful than any living creature. And then its heart exploded. So, now we come to Cocaine Bear, the movie. Directed by Elizabeth Banks. The film is dedicated to Ray Liotta, who passed in 2022. It's already surpassed the box office at this point. When I checked, it was $52 million when the actual budget was between $30 and $35 million. Now, the reason I wanted to see this film, not only because of the hilarious original story of Cocaine Bear, but because one of my favorite comedians, Scott Seiss, has a cameo as a EMS worker. And he is one of the best parts of the movie, like I imagined. So let's go through the rating scale, because the plot is basically just made up around the concept of we need a plot that would make sense around the idea of a bear dying from a cocaine overdose. So basically a little girl goes into the woods and she's away from her mom. Her mom is worried about her, but she doesn't really care until a bear high on cocaine scares her and she runs off into a cave. There's this weird little subplot of a outdoor tree hugger type guy that is in some sort of pseudo relationship with a park ranger, which I found was really funny. The park ranger was actually my favorite character in the movie. She's really funny. And, you know, drugs are involved, so there's drug dealers. It's a pretty simple plot, but I like what they did with this. I really do like what they did with this. So let's start with the scale. Our first is acting. And for what this movie is, there is some damn good acting in this film. I'm going to give it an 8.
Hey, that's pretty good.
And I say that because there are scenes where I really feel like, holy shit, there's a bear high on cocaine, like less than 10 miles from me, and there's a possibility that I could die from it. Because these people are pretty convincing. Now, what happens is not convincing because it is a movie, and it does get a little silly sometimes, but the acting is really good, especially from Kerry Russell and O'Shea Jackson Jr. They're some of the best characters. Now, for sound, I gotta say, there's a scene where the EMS workers and the park ranger are fleeing from the bear, in a ambulance, and I Just Can't Get Enough is playing the entire time, and it made me laugh really, really hard. I loved that part. So for sound and for music in general, I'll give this one an 8. For plot, like I said, they weren't working with much. There wasn't much of a story around Cocaine Bear other than the funny happenstance around it. But what they did do is create something pretty interesting for what it's worth. So I'll give that a 6. Fear. If you're scared of bears, this is a 10. But the bear is high on cocaine, which is so absurd that it would never happen again. Hopefully. So it's pretty ludicrous to be scared of it. So I would say maybe a 5. I'll go with a 5. And then experience. Also a 5. Because it's a horror comedy. There are some horror comedies where you're actually a little scared, but this is just silly enough for you not to be scared. So let's go with 5, which with the weighted points would be 7.5. So weighing those together, you get 6.9. Nice. This has been the first review from the Big Red Horror Show. I hope everyone had a great time. I know I did, and I will see you next time. Bye.